right, so we're gonna jump into painting trees number 2. So we need the same supplies as we did at first for our thick to thin lines. So that's that. This one's a little long, but you want a rounded small brush. So something like that. It can be smaller. You can try different till you have control. I really like the ones with the blue grip. You can get these at Walmart. It's in the craft section for those if you decide to buy your own. You are also going to need a fan brush. So it's one of these brushes that goes up and out at the top. There are rougher ones, there are softer ones. It's totally up to you what you want to pick. And they kind of give a little bit of a different look. I tend to like these rougher ones, a little bit older brushes, a little bit more. But again, they both work equally. You need your paint, you need a paper towel, and you need your water cup with just a little bit of water. And you're going to need your painting trees number 2 paper. If you have more, you can set them aside. It doesn't matter what color you have. We're going to paint these all in one color though. So whatever you have, you just need one. It's good to use leftover paint. I am going to start back from our painting trees number 1 lesson. And I'm going to paint a thick to thin line. So if you still struggle with this, go back, practice some more thick to thin lines. You may need to go slower than I go, and that's fine. But we're going to start with a thick to thin line right along that point. Now you guys can see we have a dotted triangle here. Now the goal is not to have to draw these so that that triangle doesn't appear. I am going to actually rinse off my brush because I'm going to switch to that fan brush. Now, one thing that you guys don't see on here is actually that we're going to be making, the pattern we're going to make these lines in to fill this triangle are going to be in a zigzag line. So I'm going to draw that in on here. If you need to draw it in, you can draw it in. But as long as you have the idea that we're going to go in a zigzag. I'm going to take my fan brush. Now it's very important how you load this up. I'm going to kind of hold my palette to the side so you can see. I'm just going to dip the tips of my fan brush in there. Now there's a lot of paint on here. I don't want all that. So I'm going to use extra space here or maybe on my paper towel. And I'm going to just tap some of that off. So tap, 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 get rid of some of it. I don't want a lot. So you should be able to see all of the little hairs on there. If it's much more than that, it's going to be too goopy. Now at the very top, my goal is to stay inside of this triangle as much as possible. So if I go like this and I tap, it's going to go outside of that. So I'm going to start with just the corner of my brush, and I am going to go tap, tap, tap back and forth inside of that triangle shape, following a zigzag pattern. So I'm going to keep tapping until my brush will fit sideways like this. As soon as my brush fits sideways like this, I can keep it that way, and I'm still going to just tap, 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 tap. And you can see how it gives kind of that rough branch. Now I went a little bit outside, that's fine, as long as I don't keep going outside of that triangle too much. Tap, tap, tap. I'm starting to run out of paint, so I'm going to get a little more. I load up the same way, where I get a little bit on the end of my brush, tap some off, and jump back in. Now, do you see how I have too much paint there? You can tell. Tap it off again. Go back and go back over that while the paint is still wet. I might go a little bit back up my tree. But tap, 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 tap. Until you feel that it's full. If you accidentally do something like, here, let me paint another thick to thin line. Okay, that one was a little rough. I could have taken my time more. But if you end up with something like this, like that, where there's gaps in there, you can go back over it and go slower and fill it all back in. But I'm still doing that zigzag shape. Okay, and now lay it down. All right. And there we have 2 trees. This is kind of in the style of Bob Ross. So Bob Ross pine trees, I like to call them, or as he calls them, happy little trees. Now you're going to try some down below. You can draw out the original shape I had with the thick to thin line and the dotted lines if you need, but I would like you to at least try one without. If you need to grab another sheet of paper to try it on another sheet of paper as well, if this just isn't enough, please do that. Right, happy treeing.